does an empire make its mark? I mean, really make it last. Not just in stories, but in actual stone that stands for hundreds of years. Today, we're diving into the 300-year architectural story of the Delhi Sultanate, an empire that literally built its legacy from the ground up.
So let's start with a really big question. Imagine you've just taken over. You're the new power in town. How do you show everyone, your subjects, your rivals, the future, that you're here and you're here to stay?
The answer is pretty straightforward, and it's incredibly powerful. They build. They create a signature in stone that shouts their power, their beliefs, and their whole vision for the future. Stone is how they make their story permanent.
And what came out of this period in Delhi was this amazing new architectural language, what we call the imperial style. Now, this wasn't just one thing. Think of it as a creative mashup of Central Asian and local Indian styles that just kept evolving over 3 centuries and through 5 different dynasties. And we're going to trace that whole evolution.
First up, the Khiljis. Their time in charge was pretty short, but man, was it impactful. This was an era of incredible wealth, serious military power, and some truly jaw-dropping architectural ambitions. The main character here, the one you really need to know, is Alauddin Khilji. He takes the throne in 1296, and his reign is really the peak of the Sultanate. It's under him that we see these game-changing buildings go up, like the Alai Darwaza, which was finished in 1311. And this gateway, the Alai Darwaza, is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's not just a doorway. No way. It was a statement, a billboard announcing a whole new level of style and engineering. Seriously, this one building was a massive leap forward. Get this, it has the first true dome ever built in India. They finally cracked the code on how to do it right. It also introduced the super elegant horseshoe arch. And the details? Wow. You've got these delicate latticed stone screens called Jali, beautiful calligraphy, and these unique spearhead designs along the arches. It was a revolution in a single building. And this quote just nails another key innovation. The Khiljis were masters of using materials for maximum impact. This beautiful contrast of red sandstone and white marble, it wasn't just for looks. It became one of the most recognizable features of Indo-Islamic architecture for centuries. 24.5 meters. Okay, I know, that number by itself might not sound that impressive. But trust me, this number tells a story about ambition that was even bigger than the Alai Darwaza. Yep, this is how high they got on the first story of the Alai Minar. Alauddin Khilji's plan was for this tower to be twice as tall as the famous Qutb Minar, but he died before it could be finished, and construction just stopped. So today, it's just this massive unfinished stump, a silent, powerful reminder of an ambition so huge it outlived the man who dreamed it up. Okay, so after all that fancy Khilji ambition, get ready for a total vibe shift. When the Tughlaqs take over, the style changes dramatically. Theirs was a time of crisis and practicality, and their architecture was all about massive, no-nonsense strength. You really can't miss the difference. The Khiljis were all about decoration, the Tughlaqs were all about defense. Out goes the beautiful red sandstone and marble, and in comes this chunky, rough-looking rubble. And the signature feature? These huge, sloping walls designed for one thing and one thing only, to keep people out. So the dynasty's founder, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, gets to work right away building a new, heavily fortified capital. This whole era is long and complicated, but it's really defined by that initial push for security, and then later a surprising turn towards building public works under Firoz Shah. And Tughlaq Fort is the ultimate example of this defensive thinking. It was built to fight off the constant threat of Mongol invasions, and its walls are just enormous, up to 15 meters high, reinforced with these giant circular bastions. When you walk through the ruins today, you just feel this sense of raw, imposing military power. But hold on. It would be a huge mistake to think the Tughlaqs were just about building giant walls. A later ruler, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, completely changed the game. He started an incredible era of public construction, moving the focus from just defending the empire to actually serving its people. This Tughlaq ruler left a totally different kind of legacy. He founded new cities, he set up hospitals and schools, and he built irrigation canals that completely changed farming. He even repaired the Qutb Minar, which was built by an earlier dynasty. His priority was clearly to build a stable, prosperous society. All right, so as the Tughlaq era winds down, the Sultanate enters its final act with the Sayyids and Lodis.
The massive building projects shrink, but what we see emerge is this really refined, elegant style that's almost completely focused on tombs. In fact, they were so focused on building tombs, or maqbara, that some historians have kind of jokingly called this the macabre reign. It was a time when the biggest architectural statements were all about preparing for the afterlife of the rich and powerful. Take a look at the tomb of the Sayyid ruler Muhammad Shah. See that octagonal shape? That design was for royals only. The dome is lifted up on a high base to give it more height. But what's really cool is how it blends different styles. It's surrounded by 8 of these small pavilions called chhatris, a feature taken straight from Hindu architecture, complete with lotus designs on top. So the lotus, who came next, they looked at this elegant tomb building tradition and were like, okay, we love this, but what if we did more? They started thinking not just about the building itself, but about its entire setting. And this right here, the tomb of Sikandar Lodi, is a total game changer. Why? Because it's the first major tomb to be put inside a huge planned garden. This whole idea, the garden tomb, would become the absolute signature of the Mughals. You know, like the Taj Mahal? The blueprint for that starts right here with the Lodis. So let's zoom out. After 300 years and 5 dynasties, what's the lasting legacy of this imperial style? What did this whole incredible journey from grand ambition to fortress walls to elegant tombs leave behind? Well, it's a story of evolution. It kicks off with a spectacular, almost over-the-top ambition of the Khiljis. Then it pivots to the stark, practical defense of the Tughlaqs. And it all wraps up with the refined, garden-focused elegance of the Lodis. Each phase learned from the last, creating this rich architectural playbook that the next great empire, the Mughals, would inherit and run with. Which leaves us with a final thought, right? If all these incredible structures are the stories of past empires written in stone, what stories are our modern skyscrapers, stadiums, and cities telling about us? What signature are we leaving for the future to read?